Hello and welcome to Catheee Paints on Gen Con TV. I'm Cathy Wappel and should have these guys up here. This is what I'm painting today. We were working on this guy. He's out of focus. Let me open my palette. So this guy is what we were working on last week. And I'm gonna bring him into a little bit sharper focus and maybe we'll zoom in a little closer on this guy. Maybe. Yeah. So we worked on green skin. So the skin's not done yet. We still have a little bit more midtones and some highlights to add to this, but also you can see how flat the back looks. There's little dark lines and there's little highlights. But if you look at it compared to the front, there's a little bit more gradation from light to dark on the front than there is on the back. So we're going to work on the back a little, finish that up, get some more highlights in, and then we're going to explore the midtones again. And the midtones are those in-between colors, those in-between values slash color, between your darkest shadows and your lightest highlights. So let me get my fancy paint reservoir out on the palette. I need to fill this with water. I like to have this little cup out here on the palette so that I can it's easier for me to control how much moisture I get on the brush if I'm just tipping the tip of it into this little bottle cap and rather than going to my my rinse cup back and forth and then splattering paint all over my my palette. So I want to just get some, let's see, what do I have out on the palette? Let's look at what I've got out on the palette already. I have let me show you some of the colors I'm working with. They have clear blue, clear phthalo green. These are what I'm using for some of the darks, and the green I'm using in the midtones as well. I have these three lighter colors, the Reaper Clear Orange. These are all Reaper Miniatures paints. Clear orange, clear magenta, clear yellow. So the thing I like about the clear paints is that they're the closest thing in miniature paints that I've gotten to regular artist acrylic colors like phthalo green or quinacridone magenta or cadmium red, cadmium yellow. These are the closest I've gotten to things like that. And I did years ago used to paint 2D paintings, so I was a little familiar with how those colors kind of work together, how some of them did. So when Reaper came out with these clears, which aren't blended colors, there's no white in them, there's no black in them, there's not like two pigments mixed together to get something else. It's just straight up one pigment. They're called clear, they're not transparent. That's a thing that it takes a while to wrap your brain around. Like, why do they call it clear if it's not transparent? If it's not clear like an ink? Uh, I don't know. I really don't. I have no explanation for that. Hey, Acid Burn Punk. Hey, K-Bar. How are you? How are you doing tonight? It's so weird, again, to be streaming at night instead of during the day. Usually I'm like, how's your day going? But it's kind of you know, for most of us, for those of us in the U.S., it's the end of our day. Oh, that's right. It's only 5 o'clock in Seattle. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, and it's not here. It's there. Well, it's 5 o'clock. Drink up. Acid Burn says, I'm excited for it. I can't watch most days due to work. Yeah, that's true. That's why I thought it would be nice to do a stream at night. I need to refocus this because I know that when I'm painting this guy, let me pretend like I'm painting. Yeah, so like when I'm painting him, I'm going to be holding the model here, which is not in the center. I had it set up for the other thing that I was doing earlier today on my normal stream channel. So let's bring you in focus. There we go. Yeah, that's better. My other stream channel, which is my own personal channel, Cathy Wappel, I paint on that channel 4 days a week. Well, technically, I paint on that channel 3 days a week, and then on Fridays, I read out loud. I read fiction of the early 1900s out loud. Although occasionally we delve back into the 1800s, like for Sherlock Holmes or H.G. Wells. I've been reading The War of the Worlds the last few Fridays. I need to mix a color, and so I need orange on my palette. That's what I'm talking about my paints, but I didn't actually put the orange out on the palette like I intended. So I have the green, I have the yellow, I have the blue. So what I need is orange and magenta, because those are the colors I'm using. I don't remember if I had red. I don't remember if I used red for this guy at all. I don't think so. Carabar says, still pretty sunshine. Oh, we had pretty sunshine here today too. For the first time in all winter, I got to sit out on the front step. It was in the 50s. And so I got to sit on the front step in my bare feet. It felt so nice. Sun shining on me, bare feet, getting my chlorophyll like a plant, like the plant person that I am. If only. All right, so I have a green here. It's really more of a green brown. I need to mix a different one. Let's see. What do I have to do? Do I need to revisit my green and yellow? I think so. Green. So phthalo green and the clear yellow make a beautiful bright green color. I love it. Look at this bright color. So this is the green and the yellow. This is the green and the orange. What a big difference. Because this green is kind of a blue shift to it. It's a little bit of blue-green, but not really blue-green. It's weird. So what if so these aren't the green I'm looking for on this guy. I need a different, I need a different green. So what if I do blue and orange? See, it's been a week since I made the skin color. And I don't remember what I used. Ooh. Maybe. I guess it was blue-orange. Who would have thought blue and orange would make green? Not I. I feel like I might have put yellow in it too. Did I? Hmm. Hmm. Needs more blue. Needs more yellow. Welcome to the way that I mix colors. Needs more blue. Needs. You can't see it either. It's way down there. I made this color. Started with orange and blue, and then added yellow. Now was like, does it need more blue? Does it needs more blue? Then it needs more yellow. What if we tried? What if we tried the rash idea of mixing blue and yellow to get green? I know it sounds crazy, right? Blue and yellow. I thought that was only in Ziploc commercials, but we'll try it. Okay, that's another different green. So here's the blue and yellow green. Here's the phthalo green and yellow green. So bright. Not so bright, but I need more yellow on the palette because I used it all up. Vlieger Dragon is here. Hey V. V says, oh my god, it's been so long since we last talked. Dio says, oh my god, it's Cathy Wappel. Dio, I picture you going like this. Oh my god. Is that what you're doing? K-Bar says, thank you for showing mixing. Ooh, yes. I love mixing is one of my favorite parts about painting. I will talk about it endlessly. Peter, hi. Peter says I'm talking crazy. Yeah, right? Blue and yellow? Green? Are you sure, Cathy? What color theory classes did you take? I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. I'm just want to try blue and yellow. You know, like we learned back in school. Okay, this is the green. Who would have thought? Who who would have thought? But look at all these greens out here now. So I have phthalo green mixed with yellow. Phthalo green by itself. Phthalo green mixed with orange. I don't remember what this is. This was phthalo green and orange and yellow, I think, together. So orange, yellow, and phthalo green. I say phthalo green because they have another green as well. So they have the regular clear green, and then you have the clear phthalo green, and they're very different. The clear green is like a Kelly green. The phthalo green is darker. The pigment itself is darker, and it's a little more transparent, and it leans more towards the blue, whereas the clear green leans a little more warm towards the yellow. So they're two very different greens, but they're still just single pigment colors. So they're both nice, intense, saturated colors. So this looks more like the green that we had going on this guy. So we will, so that's kind of a mid-tone. It's kind of for all that. Acid Burn says, I see more jazz hands for Dio. Like, I mean, I could see Dio doing jazz hands anyways, but I think for the oh my god, I think he's doing this. Oh my god. Yeah. That's what I think for Diomedes Industries. Hey Fangwad. Fancy seeing you here. Diomedes Industries says, I was squeeing and shaking my hands. Ah, see, I suspected as much. Excuse me while I enjoy my tea. Jasmine. It's jasmine tea tonight. Mmm, so good. still warm enough. Still warm enough. So we wanted in the shadows. We wanted to work up the shadows on this guy. So I think we have a good color. How did I get yellow on my hand? He just got yellow. I don't know. I mean, sure, I opened the yellow, but I don't usually get it all on my hand like that. I'm not sure what happened there. So we have our dark color. We're going to glaze that dark color into his back, but there is this sort of pinkish. The color I used to originally prime this guy is sort of orangey brown, this sort of reddish brown color, and it's showing through in parts of his skin tone, and I really like that color. So I kind of don't want to destroy it, or I have to glaze it in again uh, later when I do midtones. So I need to think about that. So let's get our shadows going here. Do I have? There's no paint coming off my brush. I have no paint on my brush. I'm not sure why. All right, try this again with paint on my brush. So the underside of these shapes, we're just breaking this guy down into shapes right now. The underside of these shapes is in shadow because we're thinking of the light as coming sort of from above and around. The light doesn't usually come from below, and if it does, it's usually from like fire or something. And we will explore painting fire and lava and how they cast light and how that light reflects off of your models later on other models. I'll have to figure out a lesson plan for that. We call it object source lighting, where there's a light source and there's an object that the light is reflecting onto. And that is a whole nother discussion, which will be fun when we get to it. But today we're just working up the volumes of values on this guy to make him look a bit more three-dimensional. We're exaggerating all the shadows and highlights on him. When a figure is this small, you kind of have to exaggerate the highlights and shadows. Otherwise, you lose all that detail. It just kind of gets lost in the real world reflections. And doing it this way, you're bringing out all these little details that have been sculpted in. You don't want to lose all that stuff. So the lower part of his back is now darker than it was when we started. Fanglad says this stream is easier to catch with my new schedule. I've measured on my screen, Cathy, and he's still two-dimensional, just like you. That's fair, Fanglad. That's a true story. No one knows my three-dimensionality. Three-dimensionality? Yeah. Only the shadow knows. Were you there for the War of the Worlds, Fangwad? Dimensionality. Dimensionality is a word, says Fangwad. Yeah, I know it is. V says, I know that Cathy is 3D. I have met her. See? See? There's proof. I am not just a bot. I am a real girl. Hey, Queez. Fangwad says, I caught a few bits of War of the Worlds. Not much, though. Oh, that's too bad. We miss you. I'm just working up my, again, just working up the shadows here, just that gradation between light and dark. Dark at the bottom, it gets a little bit lighter as it gets, around. If this were a sphere, it gets a little lighter as you go up it, and then on the top of it, it's going to be your lightest highlights. And we're treating all the muscles like this, kind of individually. And then the whole underside of his arm is going to get a whole glazing of this darker color, because that whole part of the arm is darker. If I want to make it darker still, I need to wait for this to dry to add another layer of that dark color under there, because otherwise it's just going to push around what I already have and not really do anything. So you do want to wait with this way of doing it. You do want to wait until it's dry before you put the next layer on there, if you feel like you need to glaze it some more to get it darker or to get it more saturated, whatever you're trying to do with it. So I'm just working the darker shadows again right here. Got a little carried away right there, so I just took I rinsed my brush off real quick and then just took the damp brush and wiped off the paint that I had put there, because that's a good way to hit the undo button on this. Just immediately rinse your brush off, blot the excess water off, and then just take a damp brush and move around the paint that's on the model. In fact, that's how I'm doing all this painting, is exactly that way. I just get paint on here, and then I rinse the brush off, and I take just the damp brush like right now and move around the paint that's still wet. You can only do so much of it at one time, though. Otherwise, it's going to dry too fast. So doing just one little bunch of muscles at a time is perfect. If I tried to do a whole arm like that, then one part of it would be dry by the time I rinsed my brush off and went to move around the paint. Stick the brush under here. I can't see where the brush is underneath. Yeah, let's tip it over. No, I still can't. He's still in shadow. So I'm just gonna get the brush with the paint and stick it under there and hope for the best. That's what I do in those areas that are hard to reach and they're always in shadow. You just kind of take a dark color, ram it in there, hope for the best, because it's going to be in shadow anyways. So people aren't going to, unless they're turning your model upside down and really looking under there with a really good light and a magnifier, they're not going to see anything. Hey, Mark UK Painting. How are you, Mark? Oh, Peter suggests maybe she's 5D. 2D plus 3D. Wait. Am I from the fifth dimension? Dance, monkey boy. Attack of Cathy from the fifth dimension. Ah, if only. Let's see. Did we get all we wanted to here? I'm looking at his face. I think we're I ooh. Remember last week? Cast your mind back if you will to last week when I said I don't know what it is about hands. I always forget to paint them if they're holding on to something like a sword or an axe. See? So, like, I did this one because I did the underside of the arm, but this one, like the front of the knuckles, I didn't do. This whole hand right here, because it's separated by a bracer, I totally forgot to paint that. I was like, no, I think we're ready for the. Oh, no. No, we have to paint the hands still. We have to do shadows on the hands. Fangwoods has actually come to think of it, Cathy, is 3E. 3E? When? Real soon. I wish. I wish I could recall all of the movie quotes from movies I've seen. You know, like other cool people I know. Like my friend JD, who's not here right now. But oh my gosh, he can quote anything from any movie at any time. Unbelievable. Wait, was that blue with orange? I don't remember. Was it blue with orange? Hold on. I need blue. I just mixed green with orange and I'm like, that doesn't look right. What about blue with orange? Yes. I didn't mix enough of it to do the hands because it's all dry already. So now I need to mix a whole bunch more, like too much, just so that I can do the hands. Because that makes sense, right? That's that's how these things work. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how these things work. All right, we'll try this. We'll try these hand things. So this is the back of the hand. I don't need to make super deep shadows here. Not like the fingers. I mean, technically, I don't need to make super deep shadows here either, but fingers, you kind of want to just exaggerate those shadows. Because, again, the model is so small, you need that extra little bit of contrast to pick out all the details. Otherwise, the details just kind of get lost. Ooh, I should show you the thing I finished earlier today. I was very excited to finish it. despite my friend saying, ooh, you really need to do this to it. And he was right. He was absolutely correct. I needed to do that. So I couldn't stop painting when I normally do. My first stream is from 3 to 5 Central. So 5 o'clock went around, and he's like, yeah, I feel like this eye should have more of the iris color of the other eye. And I looked at it and I'm like, you're right. I need to fix that. I need to stop streaming so that I can eat food, so that I can get ready for my other stream, but you're right, and I need to fix that right now. And because I wanted to finish the whole model. Once I finished the eyes, the whole model was done. And so I had to finish the eyes. I couldn't stop. The reason why I couldn't stop is I'm like, I know it's only going to take me, 5 or 10 more minutes to finish this. And if I stop now, I'm never going to finish it. I'm never going to pick it up again. So I had to finish it. So I ran a half-hour overtime. I mean, not like anybody's really timing me on my own channel, but I did need to eat. So let me put this down so I can show you what I was working on. V says I was timing you. Yeah, Vleeger Dragon was looking out for me. I knew. I was like, I am aware. I am aware. I'm gonna zoom out here, so because this is the big model, so I'm gonna zoom out. So this is the guy. This is my goblin that I've been working on, and I painted the eyes today. So I should have like a background here so you can get a better idea. So there it is. And his crazy eyes. I used lemur eyes as a reference for the orange eye. And then I wanted the other eye to be this dead eye because there's this scar going, across his eyes. So I thought, ooh, dead eye or damaged eye, the creepy, nasty looking eye. So thank you, K-Bar. Thank you. I had so much fun painting that model. Oh, thanks. Thanks. I had to paint the whole inside of the mouth and tongue before I attached the bottom jaw. It's a 3D print, and the tongue and the bottom jaw were separate from the whole rest of the head. And so I painted the inside of the mouth. I primed the inside of the mouth first and painted it. I glued the what do you call it? Tongue. I glued the tongue in, and I did that before I primed it. I glued the tongue in, the lower jaw, and then primed it, and then painted it. Then I glued it together, and then I had to putty around the gap between the jaw and the rest of the face, because there's this big gap in between. So I had to take a 2-part epoxy and kind of sculpt in some area around the jaw, and yeah. But it was so much fun to paint. The whole thing. It was a great model. Let's zoom back in on our guy. Ah, yes. Hands. Now we're back to hands. So I don't know why this part is so deep. These, the bones of the back of your hand, how they are. I don't know why they're sculpted so deep on this guy. They almost look like another whole finger joint. Anyways, I don't need to make as dark of a shadow on that part. And underneath is dry now, so we're going to glaze a little bit of our dark shadow over this underneath, which is going to make the underside of the fingers darker, but it's going to make the shadow in the crevices even darker still. Because that's how the Reaper clears work. You put that color on, and it's pretty translucent. You can see I painted over this whole area. It's pretty translucent, and I think it's probably dry now. So I'm gonna paint over it again, and then I'm gonna rinse my brush off, blot off a little bit of paint there. But what it does is when you have another layer of it, it just enhances that. It makes a dark pigment look even darker, and it makes any of the pigments more saturated, so they're more intense. I'm gonna put a little bit more shading on his washboard abs here. And we're gonna remind ourselves that he's got little areolas here. Do we need a little bit of lighter color there to enhance that little detail? It's a lighter green. Yeah. These are important details on a model. Also, I like that color as a highlight, and I'm gonna have to remember that. It was white and yellow and blue orange. Blorange. Blorange and white and yellow. Just making up names, right? What is the most important detail on a model? Asks V. The nipple. V. I mean, it's not the most important detail, but it is important because this detail was sculpted in there, and it's very easy to lose it, because sometimes these really fine details, when you digitally sculpt them, once they get printed out and cast at a smaller scale, those details kind of soften and disappear. And that was really small detail. Tooth Dark, hi. Tooth Dark says, do you have a system to remember your color mix when you come back the next day? Not really. Well, for example, I have a project ongoing that I've been working on for a long time. And I saved my palette paper from this project. And I have written red, magenta, green, white, maybe a little yellow. That's this color. So the next time I get a chance to work on this long-term project, I will know if I need to make this color, the colors I used to get it. And I have an example So when I get my ratio right and it looks right, I'll just eyeball it until it looks like this. Knowing that acrylic paint dries a little bit darker than when it's wet. So these are just things to keep in mind. Also, I have a very limited palette. My palette is generally made up of 9 paints. 9 paint. I should take just a picture for when people ask me about it. But it's all of the Reaper clear colors. Reaper Miniatures makes a ton of paint, but they make 9 paints that are called clear. They're not clear. They're not transparent, but they're called clear. Don't ask me why. Clear blue, clear green, clear phthalo blue, clear phthalo green, magenta, red, yellow, orange, and purple. I don't use purple very often. I don't know why. I mean, it's a valid color. I just, for some reason, it just doesn't find its way onto my palette very often. It's just personal style, I guess. I don't know. But so those are the 9 paints I use. Plus I have a tube of Artist Acrylic Titanium White. And so I have some of that out on my palette here. You can see that it's much thicker than my miniature paint. But I only take a tiny bit of white at any time to use with other colors to make them lighter, usually. So with such a limited palette, it's pretty easy for me to guess what colors I used to make something. On the other hand, as people who are here at the very beginning of this stream witnessed, trying to remember what color of green I made by mixing phthalo green and orange, phthalo green and yellow, phthalo green and yellow and orange. That wasn't it. Blue and orange. This is blue and orange. And then blue and yellow, which is this green. So I'm like, I know I had all those colors out on my palette. So which combination did I use to get this skin color? Because we still needed to work on the back of him tonight. So there you have it. There is my answer. In summation, no. I don't have a system. I wing it. Oh, first time chat from Tina Belcher Green Lantern. Hi, Tina. Tina says I draw the line at the tertiary orc nipple. Only if they're a witch, right? Only if it's an orc witch. I'm pretty sure, right? Fangwad says, fortunately, I have a perfect color for that, except for that exact kind of detail, but only for dark elves. Oh, you're talking about this color, aren't you? Yeah. That's a color that if you go to ReaperCon, that you can get a hold of. It's not on their website. Acid Burn says, I'll never forget your color matching stream. I need to do more of that. I need to do more of those. Just the basics of mixing the different clear paints together and what you get. I think perhaps I will have at least one stream dedicated just to that because it is a handy thing to see how these clear paints work together. It took me a lot of experimentation before I figured out how I could make colors other than just brown by mixing colors together. Like, I got a lot of green and green brown here today. I mean, they're all green and they're all perfect for orc flesh tones, but when I first was starting out, everything was just mud. I had just had this phase where all the colors I mixed were mud. It was one variation of brown and another variation of brown. I've I've since graduated, and it would be nice to help other people to skip that phase maybe, or to feel a little more comfortable using the clear paints and mixing their own colors. Because sometimes there's a color that you want in your head and you just can't find it in your 200 bottles of paint that you have. So wouldn't it be easier to just grab a couple of clear paints and mix them together to get that color? Excuse me while I have a sip of tea. K-Bar says, "Yep, brown is my issue." Is it that you're always mixing brown, or are you in search of the perfect brown? Because for me, I was in search of the perfect brown for a while. All the browns that Games Workshop did were unsatisfying, except for Scorched Brown. All the browns that Privateer Press did were unsatisfying. I couldn't find the brown that I really wanted inside my head, which was a reddish brown. And you know how I get it? I mix clear purple and clear orange together, and they make this amazing, vivid, saturated brown, this warm, rich brown. And if you add a little magenta to that, the pièce de résistance for everything is the clear magenta. It makes everything good. I'm gonna be glazing magenta into this guy's midtones. Lethal Shadows Gaming. Thanks for joining. Lethal Shadows says, for sure, stuff ending up brownish is a pain sometimes. Sometimes it's wonderful. It depends on what you're doing. Oh, K-Bar says, not intentionally. It just may end up brown. See, that was exactly my problem when I first started mixing these paints together to figure out, in my head I was like, I know I can get vivid colors from these. I just have to figure out the right way to do it. You know, how does the orange interact with the magenta? How does it interact with the yellow or the red or the green or the blue? We just explored the phthalo green and the blue mixed with orange. And the blue and the orange makes a really intense color, and the phthalo green and the orange makes a much more muted, warmer green. Yeah, Valiga Dragon is correct. Magenta is God. Yeah. There's a whole theory behind that. Let's see, what else? I feel like, are we done with this guy's shadows? Did we finish the hands? No, we haven't finished the hands yet. I need a little shading up here where his hand meets the bracer. Just a little. See, there's a little glazing just to start a shadow there. There's a hint of shadow there now. Let's look at the underside, which we've neglected completely. This needs to be darker. Oh, I need another little, just a line along the knuckles here. Just a line along the knuckles to make that part darker, and then I'm going to rinse my brush off and smooth out that line. So it's still dark up at the knuckles, but it sort of fades to lighter color at the other end of the knuckles there. And now we've got a nice little hard contrast at this side, and then a softer contrast on the other side. And we don't need to do that so strongly up here because these aren't facing the ground. These knuckles facing the ground. These ones, not so. Well, we could do it a little. We could put a little bit of a hint of a line of shadow there. We're gonna put some more paint up on this part over top of the other layer we put there. It's gonna be a little bit darker. We don't want it to be too dark because this angle is actually facing sort of upward, so it's not going to be in a lot of shadow. I just wanted a little shadow right up next to where the bracer is. And what that does, it just makes the eye kind of delineate that the bracer from the hand a little bit more. It's more distinct. We'll enhance this shadow underneath his arm here in the crook of his arm. I don't want to say it's his armpit. It's not, but it's his bicep there. It just needed a little more shadow. We're just double checking the shadows everywhere now. I'll look over the whole thing before I decide that I'm done with the shadows and I can move on to the highlights and then midtones. All right, I think we're now safe to move on. I think we're now safe to move on. Tina says, I love the eyes on your visor. I need to steal that idea. I just painted them on, but I'm thinking I might have to make them into a sticker so that people can just take a sticker and put it on their visor. I had one friend of mine did googly eyes on his visor after seeing that, and that's pretty funny too. Teeth Dark says, I learned so much watching you paint, Mrs. C. You do things I would never have even considered. Thank you so much. I'm glad. The goblin was one that I really tested my I was really testing all kinds of new things with this one. It was a lot of things I had never considered, and I just let it all hang out. I did all kinds of crazy stuff. I was like, how about we make it look like there's a light shining from underneath, and it's going to be a magenta light. It's going to be purple. And then we make it look like there's a light shining from above, because one light source isn't enough to confuse us. And that was a huge challenge for me. But yeah, it was, you can see even just here, there's this dark phthalo green, then it's this light yellowy green, and then it goes into this blue turquoise here, and then there's purple in the shadows where I mix the magenta and the blue together. Just so much different crazy stuff that I was trying on that I'd never done before. And I think that's the main thing is in painting, in painting anything really, is sometimes you just have to go for it. You have an idea in your head and you start painting, And it's okay if the idea changes. If you start painting and you're like, wow, this isn't really working and it's becoming less fun, don't try to force it. Don't try to force that vision you had. Maybe just try and take it in a totally different direction. Because I didn't start out painting that goblin uh, that way. I had a whole different idea in mind for that goblin, and it's nothing like I originally thought it would be. Sometimes you just get married to an idea. You have this idea in your head, and it's such a good idea, and you start painting it. It's not working for whatever reason. Uh, so maybe, yeah, maybe instead of forcing it, just try and think about doing it completely different. It's scary. It's scary, but it's also fun. Scary and fun. And you know what's scarier and, well, slightly less fun maybe, but it has its perks. Is making all those mistakes while you're live in front of people. And you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just winging it. Oh my goodness. That was that was my whole journey in oil painting last year. I experimented with oil painting last year, and wow, I know nothing about painting with oil paint, and the whole thing was live. So I was way out of my comfort zone, but we did it. We powered through it. We got some good results. I learned how to mix oil paints. I bought a book on mixing oil paints, and I referred to it multiple times. So there's always that option too. I recommend it. In fact, I can show you this book that I got because it's good for acrylics, not only oils. Is it this one? Color mixing recipes for portraits. This one was. Then I got their other one. Color mixing recipes for portraits, oil, acrylic, and watercolor. So absolutely, you can use that book for mixing with oils like I did, but it was also a really good tool for mixing with acrylics. And it has ratios for those people who like to have recipes. You have, you know, there's a master skin tone, there's all these different colors that go into it. There's a master skin tone recipe that's 2 parts raw umber, 1 part burnt sienna, 3 parts white, and you're like, what is a part? Well, at the very back, there's a grid, the color mixing grid. So you and it's plastic. It's it's just clear plastic. So you put your paint on it and you can wipe it off. You put like this much of this. You put 2 parts, you just do 2. So there's this whole measuring thing in the back of it that tells you how many parts of each color go into what. And it was really helpful because I was painting busts, and like this is this one's not done. I kind of got sidetracked before I finished it, the Lily Munster. But there's all this different color gradation just on her forehead. There's maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 different colors. And some of the other busts had way more different ones. That one, uh, definitely less human, flesh tone wise, but still fun. It was fun with acrylic or fun with oils, but it was scary. It was a scary adventure. Mark says that's a great book. I use it also. Acid Burn says I enjoyed watching that. Oh, with the oils. He says I'm thinking of switching to oils in winter because my paints dry too fast. Ah, yes. The oils in winter. I'm pretty sure that was Shakespeare, right? Or was that movie from the 1950s based on a Shakespeare play? I don't know. I'm making stuff up. Somebody out there knows what I'm talking about, though. I'm sure of it. You catching my reference? Because it's old. Older than me. Bright Tooth Dark, The Lion in Winter. That's what I was thinking of. Tita says olive oil, Game of Thrones crossover. Ooh, oh, I could be that. I feel like an olive oil Game of Thrones crossover is really what The Lion in Winter is all about. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it's all about. YouTube says, yes, I'm older than you. Fair enough. But did you see it in the theater when it first came out? That's the question. What do I want to do for the highlight? What did I say I wanted to do? Yellow and white and blue. I need more blue on the palette. We'll give the blue another good shake. And I have yellow and I have white, so I should be okay. I should be okay for this. I finished the goblin, so I have other things now on my plate for my other stream. Let me show you. This crazy 3D printed thing is some kind of genie lady, like a sorceress, and she's just floating on this whole thing of magic, and I love this. It's such a beautiful model. It's hard to see the detail in her face right now, but it's amazing. I love it. I can't wait to start it. And then there's this one, which is more of a dark elf kind of thing with a little dragon on her. It's perched on her hand, and she's got all this crazy hair and this crazy robe. And both these models are from Raging Heroes. They're Raging Heroes 3D prints. We can't forget our beloved Rocky, part of our Rocky and Bullwinkle duo. I did say if we finish his skin tonight, we will start on the dark elf skin on this guy. So we better keep going. We better keep going on this guy. Acid Burn says, "Hey Mark, how's it going?" All right. So I have blue out here. I need to mix. Let's do a bunch of blue and a little yellow and some white. And see what happens. Ooh. Let me show this. So this is the blue and a little bit of yellow and some white. It's a very pretty blue. It needs to be a little more green, I think, and it definitely needs to be a lighter value. In fact, I think what I need to do is just bring some white over here and just using the color that's already on my brush. It's making it lighter, but it's still too blue. It needs a little bit more yellow. So you get just a little more yellow and see what happens. Hmm. More white. Big Jim Slade Gaming, how are you? What are you up to tonight? Let's see. I'm adding a little bit of water to this to thin it a tiny bit because I had so much white in it. And if you'll remember, I used this titanium white, which is an artist acrylic. It's way thicker than my other miniature paint. So when I mix that together, I do need to add a little water to thin it down, but this might be the color I'm looking for. There's only one way to find out, and that's to put it on the model. Just got home from work. Oh, wow. That's a long day. You take all the time you need to get settled in, my friend. All right. Let's see. Where do we want to start out this color and see if it works? Why not right on the top of the back? Oh, that's not bad. So what I'm doing is I have the hard line of where my darkest shadow is, and at the top of the muscle group beneath it, I'm doing a hard line of the light color right up against it. And then I'm just delicately doing tiny brush strokes down it with a little more space and a little less pressure in between each brush stroke so that it seems like it gets darker as it goes down. And we haven't even done the midtones, really. Well, we did the midtones, but I usually do the midtones and then I do some shading and then I do some highlighting and then I go back to the midtones. And what that does is it allows me to tone down the places where I got carried away with my highlights. And then I go back and bring up highlights that I accidentally killed. It's there's a lot of back and forth. Hey Jarrett. Lurking while you play. Oh, you're playing Gloomhaven too. Have fun. It's Gloomhaven night. Is that on Tabletop Simulator? And I'm doing the same thing on this side. And you can see where this shape falls away to the sides. So I'm not taking this color all the way to the edges of this. So it gets darker as it goes this way, and then it gets darker as it goes this way from the top, and then it gets darker as it goes down this way. And I want to be careful not to get carried away. And I always say this, and then I get carried away with some of my highlights anyways. It's just easy to do. It's also a good thing to remind yourself that it's okay if your highlights get a little crazy, because you can always tone it down. You can always tone it down later. It would be nice not to have to do that extra step sometimes, but sometimes, you know, you just have to. I'm not really sure the crazy shape on this particular uh I don't even know what muscle group that is. Is that the trapezius? Anyways, there's a little bit of craziness going on with that muscle. You got another one right here. We're gonna throw that hard line in there. That's a hard line contrast. You hear a lot about contrasts, and usually you think the contrast between light and dark, but there's also a contrast between hard lines and soft lines. There's a contrast between warm and cool temperatures of colors on a model. Your warm colors are your yellows, your reds, your oranges. Green can also be yellow, but green is usually more of a cool color. It's kind of in the middle. And then your cooler colors would be that blue, blue purple, and then the blue green cyan. So you can have a warmer color and a cooler color. Like my highlight here is a very cool light blue color, and it's a contrast between that and my mid-tone greens, which are very warm and yellowy. Hey, Allie. Allie says twice in a day. What a gift. Aw, thank you. How are you today? I hope you get a little time to yourself to rest today, Allie. We're just going to beef up that highlight right on the very top of the shoulder. That should be where the lightest highlight is, going around the top. The midtones should be kind of in the middle here. But I do want a little bit on the top of this muscle right here. Yeah, things are starting to stand out a little more on this guy now that we're adding the highlight, which is exciting. It's always exciting when you start to see that. Well, I mean, when you're painting your thing and you start to see that. It's exciting for me when I'm painting my thing and I start to see that. Oh, see, I don't like this little light that I put right there. So I still have my dark green, so I'm just gonna paint over that again. Didn't didn't care for that right there. Just paint over it. Tone that down to almost nothing. Hobbies for Happiness says, I'm winding down. My girls wanted to try tea, so I made them some herbal tea I acquired from Jarrett. Nice. There are so many nice herbal teas out there. What kind of tea is it? Do I wanna add this highlight to the underside here? Just maybe a little bit. I don't want to get. That's one of the places where I didn't want to get carried away. I don't want to add too much right there. Because I do want this part to be a little darker. I guess I could use that sort of magenta-y, warmer color for a little bit of a mid-tone highlight. And you'll hear me talking about mid-tone highlights uh, as opposed to my lightest highlights. I do mention that quite a bit, and I don't know if that's a thing that other people talk about. It's just I'm pretty sure I haven't made that up, but anyways, I call them mid-tone highlights. You know, I have mid-tone highlights, and I have mid-tone shadows, and then I have mid-tones, and then I have shadows, and I have my lightest highlights. There's this crazy little thing where his elbow is. Weird little shape. And again on the tops of this shoulder, you want that lightest highlight. Just like you wanted the lightest highlight on the tops of these muscles because these muscles are facing upwards versus the lower back muscles, which are kind of they're angling downwards. Hobbies for Happiness says, I'm not normally a tea drinker, but this one is wonderful. It's a honeybush mandarin orange. Oh, that sounds good. Well, orange is one of my favorite flavors. I have a different orange tea that tastes almost like the orange suckers I used to get at the dentist office. The safety pop suckers. Even though there's no sugar in it or anything, it just has this strong orange flavor. Bangwad says, I've heard the terms, and they are my preferred terms. First highlight, second highlight, and first shadow, second shadow. So it's a similar thing then. Okay. You'll throw a link for it. Oh, thank you. Excellent. I have a stack of teas in my kitchen now. And I need more, apparently. Because you can never have enough, right? You can never have enough. Ooh. Let's explore this clavicle. I think it goes from here. think we need a highlight on that clavicle. Yeah, that's what we need. That's what we needed. We needed that. We needed. There's this curve on this muscle that goes like this. And then, you know, his collarbone. And then that tendon right here. Yeah, we needed that. Working up that highlight on the top of his shoulders again, a little. Now we're on the bicep here. And again, there's some weird shape on his arm, and I don't know if it's like the sculptor thought pushing the flesh up around the bracer was a thing that happened. It could be that. It's just kind of an odd shape there, but now that bicep is so much more, you know, more delineated. You're sorry for the derailing the conversation? Well, if you were derailing it, I would have just ignored it. Silly. It's in the foodies section. Thank you. V says, Cathy, please may we see stretch. V would like me to stretch. So that means this guy is going to make an appearance. Look at that chiseled jaw. Look at those smoldering eyes. Let's stretch. Stretch Armstrong. And so now I must stretch. Because stretching is good for the posture. It's good, you know, when you're painting and you're all hunched over, or when you're streaming and you're all hunched over, or when you're working at your computer and you're all hunched over, to just take a moment. Take a stretch. Do a little bit of light exercise for your forearms, for your shoulders, for your back, for your biceps. Fangled says V is just jealous that she wasn't the one distracting Cathy. His face up close. Yeah, right? He's a handsome devil, isn't he? V says it isn't a true Cathy Wappel stream without a little bit of stretch. That's true. We need a little stretching. Okay, I'm glad I mixed up a whole bunch of this highlight because it's, you know, taking me a little time here to get we're almost there. We haven't done his front yet, or his face, or his other arm, or his hands. Okay, so we're not close to done. We haven't even started on any other part of this guy. But it's fun, right? Just think when we get to the fur and the leather. First, we're going to do Rocky's skin. We're going to do Rocky's skin. He's going to be a dark elf. That's going to take way less time because Rocky's not half naked like Bullwinkle. So that'll take way less time. And then we can start doing the, the matching leather that these guys wear, because they like to match. It's cute that way. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing brush strokes down towards the knuckle, and towards the knuckle I'm putting more pressure on, and I'm doing more brush strokes because I want the knuckle to be more highlighted than the upper part. Remember how we put that shadow on the upper part of this? So I naturally don't want that part to be dark or to be light. I want the ends of the knuckle to catch the most light, or to appear like they're catching the most light. I don't need to do anything underneath there. And here again, the tops of the knuckles, the tops of the fingers, I should say, are going to catch the most light here. So we don't need to, well, maybe that one, maybe a little bit there. Just a little. Not much underneath there. Not much. I think I might even fill in a little bit of this shadow stuff here, right at the bottom of the knuckles here, because these deep, deep grooves in the back of this guy's hand seem a bit unnecessary. But the heel of this hand looks nice. So we absolutely want to be sure that we've got all our highlights there at the thumb. All right, so we've remembered to highlight the hands. I'm calling that a win in the book of Cathy. And now we'll start up the arm. This muscle group here needs a nice highlight at the top where it meets the bicep. And then at the highest part of this muscle, it needs that bit of highlight there. And then there's this muscle that always is here. If you paint enough muscly models, you'll get to know the anatomy of there's always these two muscles right here on the arm. We're just doing a little highlight right there. There's a bigger highlight on this muscle because it's bigger. We'll do a little bit of the bicep. And then this, whatever muscle this is, that's always there. There's always this muscle or tendon, I don't know what it is, that's right between where the bicep is and where the tricep is. Triceps on anything that's muscular. There's always that bicep, and then there's this little thing here, and then there's the triceps, the back of the arm. I suppose I could go look in an anatomy book and see what that actually is. That could be interesting. I never really thought about it. Now I really want to go do that. Ooh, am I putting highlights in unnecessary places right here? Kinda. I kinda am right there. I may have to tone that down later, or it may look fine. I'm not sure. We'll wait until the overall is done. Then we'll know. And we still haven't even gone in with our magenta midtones. I'm throwing a little highlight in there. I don't know if that's necessary either, but eh. Bangwad says, and Cathy is like, if I get him done tonight. Look, I was just talking about the highlights, Bangwad. The highlights on the skin. Not the whole model. Look, if I got an entire model done in a 2-hour stream, that would be amazing. I could just paint him one color green, and be done. But that's not how I do it. Hi, Ellie says, leather. Yes. She gets more painting done in this stream than she does in the afternoon stream, says V. Penguin wants to know, are you going to use DNP somewhere on Rocky? I don't know what that is. I don't know what. Oh. I know what that is. Okay. Right. I don't know. I hadn't actually considered it, Fangwad. I had not considered it until just now. Now I'm thinking, no, I'm still not gonna do it because look at his skin right now. It's almost dark elf skin already. There's only a few things I might do to it. I may make the undertones a little more purple. I think I would just throw some mix some blue and magenta together and but look, now there's part of me that wants to just stop and mix a color and glaze it onto this. Fangwad, don't distract me. Fangwad says, I know Rocky doesn't have any nipples showing, but I feel like you could work it in somewhere. Maybe in the leather. Maybe it'll be good on the leather. I don't use skin colors for actual skin usually. Fangwad says you prefer brown dark elves. I think I just answered that question. I said a little blue magenta glazed into the shadows. And then we'll see what happens with the highlights. But to me this color is it's like a purple gray. It's like a gray with a little bit of a purple undertone to it. And that doesn't seem very exciting for me. You know how I like saturated colors. It's not saturated. Look at the highlights on this guy. So saturated. Just wait until we get into the midtones. Where are we on this even? Oh, the front. I think we've made it to the front. Wait. Wait. Let me just brush a little highlight onto his clavicle, like we did on the other side. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Now let's look at the top of his pecs. We want to highlight. Yeah. I'm just going to make brush strokes across here. And I'm just going to go over that one little dark line that was unnecessary right there. These little muscle group things. They took the time to sculpt in right there. Very nice. All right. That's the pecs done. Ooh, let's get a little more of our highlight up here. I think there was some shadow color that got in there that I didn't really want in there. Now I feel like I need to also use this highlight to kind of tame down my shadow color that got a little too far up the shoulder muscles here. Alright, so highlights on the abs. The abs are just sort of vertical. I don't think that there's going to be too much crazy highlight on this. I mean, it's already kind of crazy. The muscle groups on the abs are kind of weird. But yeah, I don't want to get too crazy on that. There's no part of the abs that are kind of facing up that merit the brightest highlight. So probably going to tone this down when I hit it with the mid-tone color. Tone it down again. Because you want to see these details that are sculpted in. So I got to pick it out a little bit. And then I have to tone it down. But you at least want to see it on the model. They took the time to sculpt it in. So well, the front took way less time than the back. Now we can go up to his face. Let's see what's up there. Penguin says, yeah, that's fair. DNP is a nice color, but it's definitely very muted. You had it within easy reach, so I didn't know if you had plans for it. Weirdly, it's just sitting there because I did use it on the Suzerain of Desire Fangwad. And it just never got put back in with the other paints. Because I did use it on the female part of that model's skin in the shadows. So funny you should say that. Okay. Did I just... Oh, the face. The face. Ooh. There's a lot of detail in this tiny little face. I know that there was a lot of detail sculpted into it, but it's so tiny that I can't tell what it all is. Remember earlier when I was talking about digital sculpting? And you can work on something on your computer monitor that looks huge when you're sculpting digitally. And you sometimes forget that when it gets printed out and cast, it's only going to be 2 inches tall. So all the tiny subtle details you put into the great big giant thing on your monitor don't always translate when the thing gets printed out at this tiny little scale. And so you sometimes lose a little bit of that detail. So I feel like there was, once upon a time, a lot of detail here when this was in somebody's workstation, but it just kind of disappeared, which is sad because it looks like he has a very expressive face. It's still gonna look fine, and I just need to get a darker color in his mouth too. But look, we rather than look at his midtones right now that I've done the highlight, let's just throw him aside a little and mix up a color for this guy, because I really wanted to get to this guy a little bit today. So I need magenta out on my palette. Somehow my magenta got used up. I did say I used magenta in everything. And I fully plan to use magenta in my midtones for my orc. And that's going to be really fun. It's good. Magenta and phthalo green make nice color. Magenta and blue make an amazing purple. Ah, let me show you. let me demonstrate to you this amazing purple. So there's some blue, there's some magenta. That's a beautiful color. It's this sort of electric blue right now. Put a little more magenta in it. Nice purple. Let's get a little white in there, and you can see the blue and magenta with white, which is, I mean, just a light purple. Throw a little more magenta. I love this. I love. I'm off camera. I love this. So this was just the clear blue and the clear magenta together. It was this dark color, and then I added some white to it and a little bit more of the magenta for this nice lighter purple. You can see why I don't always go to the clear purple, but it's not that there's anything wrong with the clear purple. Let's see. Let us put a little of this out on the palette just to see what the difference is if I take a little purple and mix a little bit of white with it. All right, I'm gonna get some white, throw some purple. We'll do this up on camera. So I had some white, I'll throw some purple in with it. I want to try and get it to the same value as that other purple. By value, I mean the same on a scale of light, where 0 is black and 10 is white. That's the value scale. Anyways, you can already see that this purple is more of a reddish purple, I hope. And this purple is more of a bluish purple. So there's a little bit of difference, and it's subtle. But I like a blue purple. Hey, Wolf Parable, how are you? Welcome in. I'll just be wrapping things up in a little while. I just want to glaze a little blurple, a little blue purple into the dark elf shadows. But oh, do I want to throw some highlights on there first? Do I? Do I? And what color should the highlights be? What color should they be? Should the highlights be blue? I'm just going to mix some blue and white. Oh, it's way too much blue. The blue is really intense. You need kind of a lot of it to... What if I throw... I was going to say, what if I throw some orange in there, but I don't have orange. I don't have orange on my palette anymore from this morning. Well, this afternoon. What if I use the same color I'm using for my orc? You know what? We'll just use that same highlight color for the orc on this guy. Just the forehead a little, tip of the nose, top of the, the upper lip here. Just highlight that. A little bit of the chin. We always want to do that area right underneath the eye on the top of the cheekbone. And that just goes up here. Then there's this little area at the edge of the mouth there. And then another little highlight along just the edge of the jaw there, just a little. And he does have an ear, it looks like. Maybe. Maybe his ear gets, maybe that's just hair, I don't know. I can't tell. So there's his face. I can't tell if he has a bare neck or a shirt on. I just can't tell, so I'm just gonna say he has like a high-necked shirt. Because I can't tell. So, we'll remember to paint the hands. Highlight the little fingers. And just as with everything else, we can tone down our highlights if they get a little too much. He has such tiny hands. So tiny. Alright, so what does he have, a bare shoulder? I can't. I wish I could tell. Now we'll just go with my original idea that there's a shirt underneath there. So he's got a little more definition on his face. Now we're gonna do a little glaze of that blue purple into the shadow areas. I wish I could tell if that was an ear. I think that's an ear, but it's not pointed like an elf ear. And he's supposed to be an elven ranger. We'll get that color down into his eyes, into the pits of his eyes. The eyes are so tiny that you're not going to see the eyes. You probably don't have to worry too much about. But here's the thing about painting eyes. Even if you don't do the whites of the eyes and the irises, still at least throw in a darker color underneath the eyebrows, because at least it'll give some sort of semblance of an expression. Like he's got a semblance of an expression here with just shadows painted underneath the eyebrows. You're not messing around with doing irises and the whites of eyes and stuff like that, but there's just that shadow underneath the eyebrows, underneath the brow ridge. That's all you need to do if you don't like to do eyes. At least do something there, because otherwise models, they lack something. And I think part of being human is looking for faces on things. And if there's no face where the face goes, then the whole model seems like, well, why even paint it? Hey, Tony. Tony says stretch. I stretched. Well, Parable says, I'm glad I get to catch a few minutes of this before bed at least. I'm glad too. Good to see you. Alright, so let's get this onto the other side of the face. This side of the face maybe is in shadow. It's going to be all purpley. I have no point left on my brush. My poor brush. This brush needs to be retired. I need to get a different one. I have brush. It's not like I don't have brushes. I just, you use a brush, it becomes your friend. You don't want to just throw it away. Right? No, I probably should. Am I too lazy to reach over to my right and just get a new brush and take the little sleeve off of it? Possibly that's the case. But I don't think so. Alright, side of his face that's in shadow. chiseled cheekbone, crazy chiseled cheekbone. I mean, almost like stretch, which Tony did do with my stretch command. So probably I should stretch. Even though I'm almost done and I'm trying to finish this. Maybe I'll save that for tomorrow on my stream. I am streaming tomorrow on my own channel, which is Cathy Wappel on Twitch. If you like to see more miniature painting, catch me at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Well, now it's 3 p.m. Daylight Savings Time. We all know how much fun that is. As I was saying earlier today, I'm pretty certain that 100% of people on the planet would like daylight savings time to end. There is no one, 0% of humans that would like for the time switch to remain a thing in the world. I am convinced of this. But yeah, so tomorrow at 3 p.m. I will be painting more stuff. I will not be painting these guys. These are my Tuesday nights until they're finished. So you get to see the beginning and the end. We get to see the cloaks. Is there going to be freehand on this cloak? I'm not sure. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We will be painting leathers soon, because the skin on both these guys now is almost done. That didn't take long. Not on this guy, where he's got almost no skin, but he's got all leather. And look at it. It's going to be so much fun to paint. Look at all these crazy details. I already am having ideas about how I want to paint it. It's going to be like black shiny. I have ideas. I have plans. Alright, so what do you think? His skin looks like it's practically done already. That was quick skin. And you know what? We used the same highlight on this guy's skin. Oof, he's so out of focus. Why are you so out of focus? He's so much smaller than this guy. He just doesn't want to be in focus. Look, pal. Yeah, the same highlight on both these guys, and their skin looks totally different. So, we'll be working on these again next Tuesday, right here on Gen Con TV. I will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a good night, everybody.